So those who have a natural affinity for the soft virtues are called liberals. Liberals prioritise grace, mercy and kindness above all else, and they believe that love is the ultimate virtue in the universe. Liberals are driven by their hearts rather than their heads, by emotion rather than logic. They are feelers rather than thinkers. When deciding on the right course of action, they're always asking themselves, how might people feel about this situation? And if anyone is sad, excluded or downtrodden, then their heart breaks for those people. It doesn't matter the context. A liberal's first instinct is always to show compassion and solidarity with the marginalised. They always support the underdog. Now the Conservative, on the other hand, well, these are his guiding virtues, and he believes that truth, not love, is the ultimate value in the universe. Conservatives are driven by their heads rather than their hearts, by logic rather than emotion. They are thinkers rather than feelers. When deciding on the right course of action, they don't care so much how people feel about the truth. They just care that people get the truth. Conservatives believe that if people feel distressed or marginalised by the facts, then they simply have to get over it and learn how to adapt to reality. So we have the truth as a guiding principle on this side and love as a guiding principle on this side. And as we now know, these two virtue sets are often in conflict with each other. Within the context of race, liberals see that there are far more white people in the media than any other colour. There are more white people securing the top jobs in business, in government, and earning the big salaries. Now, interpreting the world through their heart, they automatically, out of compassion, look out for the minorities. Are black and Asian people being excluded on the basis of skin colour? Is this a sign of racism? Their heart breaks at the mere thought of it, so they instinctively support movements for racial equality. They advocate for reverse discrimination or affirmative action. They place a lot of emphasis on diversity. They want to make sure that black people and Asians are being represented in media and in government. And this is all simply because they want to make sure that no one ever feels excluded or sad or downtrodden. Now, Conservatives, on the other hand, well, they aren't so worried about how people feel. They just want logic. They want facts. And the facts are that in the United Kingdom, around 90% of the population are white. In the United States, it's anything up to 72%, and in Canada, it's around 75%. So basically, around 3/4 of the West are white. Therefore, it's actually statistically unremarkable that white people are predominant in Western media, government and business, just as it's statistically unremarkable that black people are predominant in all walks of Nigerian life and Asian people are predominant in all walks of Chinese life. There are just more of those people there. So all of this hand-wringing over diversity seems like a storm in a teacup to the Conservative. You don't see the Japanese or the Kenyans wringing their hands that they don't have enough white people in their government, so the Conservative wonders why it's an issue the other way around. It just seems so divisive to even mention something so insignificant. He doesn't care what skin colour people have, and he's not that interested in reverse discrimination quotas either. Conservatives just want the best people for the job. The best grades, best skill set, best work ethic, that person gets the job. That may hurt feelings, but he's much less interested. He just believes in merit. Within the context of gender, men have had a leadership role in Western society for centuries, holding most of the power in politics, business, education, law, and family life. Sometimes this is referred to as the patriarchal system. Patriarchy just means the rule of the father. Now, liberals, again driven by the heart, instinctively look out for anyone who may be in a position of weakness under this system, and so they tend to support feminism. They protest against male leadership. In fact, the extreme element even want a matriarchy, the rule of women.
Men have to step back and women have to step forward. I am marching here today because women have to rise up and take over.
Feminists say that women are no different from men and should be allowed to do the same jobs as men. They got excited by the idea of a first female president. They've also campaigned for women to be frontline soldiers, to be firefighters, and some even campaigned for the next James Bond to be played by a woman. One of their most prominent campaigns is to close the gender wage gap. Liberals believe that for every dollar a man makes, women only make 77 cents, and they believe that this is a sure sign that women are being downtrodden.
But they still make 77 cents for every dollar a man earns.
Now, Conservatives again want to look at things rationally. Forget about feelings for a moment. What is the truth here? Well, the truth is that men and women are different. Genetically, physically, emotionally, they are different. So the Conservative believes that it only makes sense to acknowledge the facts and to treat men and women differently. Women can do many things better than men, but when it comes to jobs that require physical strength and speed, like being a frontline soldier or a firefighter, men are simply better designed for this, and there's no room for politically correct quotas or pandering to feelings in these things because it could cost lives. Truth must take precedence. Furthermore, James Bond is a man, no question about it. This may hurt feelings, but it's true. And as for the gender wage gap theory, well, that's been proven time after time to simply be a myth.
In his State of the Union, President Obama said that American women are being cheated out of about a quarter of their salary, that they earn only 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. This is a massively discredited factoid. It is simply not true. The 23-cent gender pay gap is simply the difference between the average earnings of all men and women working full-time. It does not take into account differences in occupation, job tenure, hours worked per week. When all of these factors are taken into consideration, the gap narrows to the point of vanishing. The wage gap myth has been repeatedly discredited, but it will not die.
Heterosexuality is easily the normative position in society. According to the Williams Institute, only 1.7% of people describe themselves as gay or lesbian in the United States, meaning 98.3% experience heterosexual attraction. Again, the Liberal looks to support the minority position, so they instinctively support all LGBT causes. When it came to gay marriage, they supported it in the name of equality. Here was this oppressed group with hurt feelings who just needed to be loved and included. And since love is their ultimate virtue, the left doesn't care if that's man for woman or man for man or woman for woman. To them, love is just love, and love is all that matters. Now the Conservative, on the other hand, well, truth is truth, and truth is all that matters. So what's the truth about homosexuality? Well, gay relationships are statistically more violent, disease-prone and promiscuous. Gay people can't naturally produce families, and even if they adopt, children don't do as well in life without both a mother and a father. Gay people die on average 20 years before straight people as a direct result of their lifestyle. The Conservative looks at these facts and others and says that it's foolishness to pretend that homosexual relationships are equally normal or healthy. They simply aren't. That may hurt feelings to say it, but it is true. Christianity has been the predominant faith in the West for centuries. God is referenced in law courts, national anthems, oaths and on money. Our calendar and national holidays are also centred on Christian events. The Liberal, of course, is naturally looking out for minorities again, so they campaign for more multiculturalism. They want other faiths to be given equal prominence in our culture and for Christianity to lose its position of privilege. And this is just because they want others to feel included and loved. Now, Conservatives, on the other hand, it's not about feelings, it's about facts. And the facts are that Christianity has simply proven to be the best moral foundation for society anywhere in the world. Wherever Christianity has had the most influence, those nations have soon gained the highest quality of life, more freedom, prosperity, health and honesty. Indeed, 10 of the top 12 least corrupt nations in the world are Christian nations. Conservatives simply acknowledge this. They like the Christian values that have made the West such a pleasant and safe place to live. They want to protect those values for future generations, so they don't want multiculturalism. Rather than tearing down Christianity and hiding all trace of it to make sure that some minorities aren't offended, the Conservative believes that we should be proud of our values and the culture they made. The fact that the rest of the world now wants to migrate to the West to share in the blessings just proves how great they are. And he believes that if anyone does want to join in the benefits of our culture, they must first agree to learn about and conform to the values that made them possible. When it comes to politics, the Liberals' heart, of course, breaks for the poor. They hate inequality, and that draws them towards socialism. Socialism, of course, means taxing the wealthy and then redistributing the money to the poor. Whenever a left-leaning government gets into power, taxes tend to rise, and the money is then used to fund amenities and programs for those further down the economic scale. Liberals believe that the collective matters more than the individual, that individuals have a social obligation to look after the marginalised. And this is why left-leaning political parties tend to become known as representatives for the little guy. And it's also why Liberals want big government too. They need a centralised power to levy the taxes and to work for the collective. Now, conservatives, of course, they have different ideas. They know that inequality exists, they don't deny it, but think that it's because some people simply have a better relationship with the truth than others. So if someone is better educated and works harder and makes smarter decisions in life, then shouldn't that person expect to get ahead? Education and enterprise should be rewarded. So if there's inequality, then let the poor man equalise himself with the same commitment to education and hard graft. The conservative is less about the collective. He believes that individuals should be left alone to pursue their own dreams. He doesn't want to be just a faceless cog in a giant government machine. He wants small government and for individuals to take personal responsibility for their own lives. And he also knows that high taxes are actually counterproductive. They actually demoralise the hard workers and the wealth generators in society, and they cause the poor to become reliant on the handouts, and so they have no incentive to work anymore, and that means that they become stuck in poverty. When the Syrian refugee crisis happened, how did Liberals respond to that? With love and compassion, of course. They wanted to throw the borders wide open to anyone who would come. But how did Conservatives respond? With logic. They wanted facts. So can our infrastructure cope with this? Will it lead to social problems? What about the threat from terrorists? Liberals chastised Conservatives for being heartless enough to ask these questions, whereas Conservatives thought that Liberals were being brainless for not asking them. When it comes to parenting, Liberals will try to raise their children using only the soft virtues. So when a child is misbehaving, they wouldn't dream of spanking. That's just way too hard. Whereas Conservatives have no problem with discipline. They believe in the mantra, spare the rod, spoil the child. It's hard, but it's good. When it comes to criminals, it's the same thing. Liberals believe they should be loved into reform. Conservatives believe that criminals should be punished into reform. So you're probably getting the picture now. Love here, truth here, always leading to contradictory ideas. And remember, as you look at these two sets of words, you'll probably find yourself being more drawn to the left or the right. This is why all democracies tend to split themselves into these two branches. Liberals and Conservatives are locked in this everlasting battle to establish what matters more, love or truth. And the fact of the matter is that they both matter equally. God demonstrates the hard and the soft virtues in his person, and so should we. Remember, little lions and little lambs at the appropriate times. So Paul wrote, "Instead we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of his body, the church." It's only when we start combining the truth with love that we find ourselves truly developing a Christ-like character. And if we don't stay balanced in this way, so if we go too far left or too far right, we start running into problems.